Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the LSU Sports Podcast from the Red Zone Report. I'm your host, Scott Gerard, joined by co-host Tommy Johnson and Daniel Zollinger. Today we're going to be going over LSU football. There always seems to be some news trickling out there. We're also going to cover baseball, which unfortunately ended its season last weekend, and also some track and field wrap-up since the championships just ended. Guys, how you doing today?
Hey, doing pretty well, Scott. Good to be back on here.
Yeah, right on. Well, let's get down to it. But before we get started, I just wanted to go ahead and tell our listeners to hit the subscribe button, follow us on Twitter at RZRLSUPod, and to check out the website at the LARedZoneReport.com. So starting with football, it's the off season. I think all the freshmen are in. They're going through camp, getting their conditioning done. And, there always seems to be some recruiting news coming out. Earlier this week, LSU got a commitment from one of the top JUCO defensive ends, and Ali Guy. He's a big fella, 6'6", 270. He's the number 5 ranked JUCO defensive end, according to, strong side defensive end, according to 24/7 Sports. And I don't know if you saw his commitment video. It seems like a new trend here. These guys are putting a lot of effort into making these videos. He had an old school television with like an old school broadcasting message and committed to the Tigers. I don't know if you guys saw it, but either way, this guy seems like a good get.
Yeah, absolutely. The production value on this stuff kind of goes up every year as it kind of becomes just more of a bigger and bigger event. And then, big defensive end. That's what you want to start building your classes early, especially on the offensive line and defensive line. We'll get to an O-line decommit here in a second, but good to see LSU keeping up with that.
And they also got a commitment from Jordan Tolles out of Maryland. He was the number 2 safety in the country, at least according to Rivals, a 4-star guy. And the rich get richer as far as DBU goes. I imagine, when Delpit is draft eligible, he's going to go. So it's good to get someone else back in there. I hadn't done too much research on Tolles, but a lot of good talk about him so far. I think it's Corey Raymond doing Corey Raymond things pretty much, right?
Yeah, it's like you said, the rich get richer, and LSU with like you said, DBU. You can't really get any better than that secondary right now, and then we just keep adding to it. So good signs for the defense and specifically that secondary, and I can't wait to see him on the field.
Yeah, just one note I had about Jordan Tolles. He's actually a classmate of Damon Clowney, Jadeveon Clowney's cousin, who LSU already had him for 2020 class. So it's pretty neat that we're getting 2 people from the same class from the same high school coming all the way from Maryland. So don't really know how they got that connection, but Damon Clowney's commit probably influenced Tolles here.
Wait, Daniel, do you mean Demon Clowney?
Yeah, I actually saw it was pronounced Damon. I know it is Demon.
I was going to say Demon.
Or Demon. I mean, I wouldn't be facing off against a guy named Demon. But
I prefer to call him. I might go with that name change to Demon.
Yeah, he could earn the nickname in camp. Who knows? But I think we talked about this last week, or we were supposed to talk about last week about recruits kind of recruiting, fellow classmates or players in their district. That could have played a role. I mean, if it did, great. I'd like to think that any safety in the country would want to go to DBU if it worked out for them. But he might have convinced them. Who knows?
Well, yeah, and that kind of goes into what me and Dana were talking about earlier. We're talking all the recruits come in. We've actually got a big time recruit on campus right now, 5-star running back Zach Evans. And Dana, what were you saying about him and his offensive tackle? Kind of deciding they're going to go play together.
Mm-hmm. So Zach Evans is currently like the number 1 player in the country on a 24/7, and he's got his teammate, one of his offensive linemen, just committed to Bama about a week ago. He's a 3-star player, so not as good, but Zach Evans has kind of come out and said that they're a bit of a package deal. So that's not really what you want to see, because that might mean he's leaning a little bit more towards Bama, but hopefully we can flip him. I know that there was the package deal situation last year with Ishmael Sopsher out of Louisiana going to LSU, him and his brother, and then Bama flipped him. So we'll see kind of how it shakes out. But maybe not the best sign right now.
That Bama did not extend an offer to Rodney Sopsher, so the package deal did not work out.
Yeah, and they don't always. You got roster spots. But hopefully that could work out in LSU's favor, especially if we can get Zach Evans' O-tackle to join him, because LSU actually lost an offensive tackle commit this week with Cortland Ford. He didn't really say much other than he's just making the best decision for himself. But I'd kind of read somewhere that he was still kind of battling some injuries out of high school and maybe didn't perform as well recent LSU camp recently. And, that could have played into it. They could have maybe, told him it might be in your best interest to go elsewhere, because he, when they offered him, he looked a certain way, but maybe now it hasn't sustained itself or something like that. Have you guys got any info on that?
I don't really have any insider info about that situation itself, but what I do know is whenever you're thinking about this, like, these guys are, 6'6", 285. They look like grown men, but they're still high schoolers. A lot of them are, 17, 18 years old. And a verbal commit, an early commit doesn't mean anything until you sign that piece of paper in February. So, I feel like this is just the name of the game. People commit, people decommit. There's a lot of, fluctuation, and, it's just kind of, you got to ride that wave when you're following this recruiting, because that guy's liable to come back, in 2 weeks or in a couple, when he comes back for a game during this regular season. So, I don't think I try not to. Of course, we all get excited when a guy verbally commits, as a junior or as a sophomore, because he looks great on film and he's highly touted. But yeah, I think you have to take both sides with a grain of salt.
Yeah, kind of looking past that. Unfortunately, with his decommit, we're down to one offensive lineman for the 2020 class. And usually in football, you have more than one offensive lineman on the field at a time. So we probably need to pick up a couple more commits there. Wearing a bit thin. So I know Coach O and Raymond will be targeting that in the next few months here, build that back up.
Yeah, hopefully. O's doing his thing. He's got LSU going back and forth with the number 2 spot against Bama. If they can keep the guys that already do commit and build off of that, who knows? Maybe he could come out on top of the recruiting rankings, which I think could help land the Zach Evanses for next year, and maybe his offensive tackle. I mean, that's the kind of momentum you want. But what the best thing you can offer to a recruit, I think, is success. Yeah, Nick Saban's been able to do that. A lot of prospects have said that's why they go there. They want to compete for a title. Which brings me to our next topic. It's never too early to talk about title odds. And I don't know, LSU's obviously a little bit behind the pack. I think the best is obviously Clemson or Bama. I think they're like 5-2 favorites. What do you guys say? What have you found?
Yeah, I'm seeing 20-1 on LSU. That's about. It's still contention. I like LSU above, better than some of these other teams that are getting better or getting, well, not better odds for the better, but they're favored more. So I like LSU better than Michigan. I like LSU better than Ohio State, which are both 14-1 odds. So LSU, I mean, I think it's a value play if you're interested in betting, if you like that kind of stuff. LSU at 20-1 is not a bad play, because if things fall in line, and I think the one thing we talked about it last week a little bit, and something to keep in mind for LSU is we can lose that Bama game and still make the playoff and still make the championship. So if that's like the major hang up, it's not as pivotal that you win out like it was in the BCS system. So LSU at 20-1 is not I don't think it's not a bad play by any means.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty reasonable number. If you give them about maybe 4-1 or 5-1 to win the SEC, And then, so you're in the playoff, and then you still got 2 crazy games left in the playoff to win the championship, and you give them about 50% odds in each of those. You come out around 20-1, maybe a little bit higher. So it seems kind of on the nose, I would say. Just looking down the list, one number that jumps out to me is almost insanity, is Nebraska at 35-1, a team that went 4-8 last year. I'm not quite sure how they're going to win it all. So if your money's on Nebraska, I might have some bad news for you. But, yeah, it's just been so centralized to the top with Alabama and Clemson both at 5-2, and then Georgia at 6-1 a little bit. And then after that, it's a big jump pretty much to the rest of the pack, and Michigan at 14-1. But just Alabama and Clemson battling each other out every single year. A little bit tough to make money, so you kind of just have to look down the ballot for a long shot who may just make a run and spoil the party. But hopefully LSU can be that team this year.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, they're going to have a lot of returning starters. They're going to get K'Lavon Chaisson back. Joe Burrow is in his second year with the offense. They brought in Joe Brady. Nothing but good things coming out of that. Sean Payton even said something, this week about how good he was, at least helping with the run-pass option and also helping to, scout other teams as far as what they're going to do. So I think LSU's in a good position there. They can only go up, basically. And, I think it's going to change week to week depending on what the games do. But, if LSU can sneak in as the number 4 seed, it probably could only do 1 loss, though. I don't think they could do it with 2. So
no, I think that and the odds on each game are reflecting that too. LSU's favored in every single game except for the Bama game. So,
of course. Well, we'll see how that plays out. But the baseball season played out not as we might have expected. They started out with high hopes, coming in the preseason number 1. Kind of took a dip, but it seemed they found their stride towards the end of the season. And when FSU beat Georgia, and all of a sudden LSU was hosting a super regional, it's like they got that hope back, especially the fans. But unfortunately, it just did not play out that way. They played well, I thought. There's some mistakes here and there that doomed them. But they lost 2 in a row to FSU. But, I think just 1 or 2 or even 3 plays might have changed the whole series because, there were some base running errors. There was, some were saying should Paul Mainieri have pitched to Drew Mendoza in the bottom of the 12th to got them their winning run. I don't know. You can question all that, but it was a heartbreaking loss for the Tigers. Everyone kind of thought we'd be going to Omaha or Gomaha, as we like to call it, but it just didn't work out that way. And you're just kind of left wondering why.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give a lot of credit to Florida State. They played real well. They're playing some inspired baseball, coming off of like a not great season in ACC play, and to make it to Omaha. But I look back, especially in that game too. The 2, like you said, you mentioned the base running errors, the error by Zach Watson, and then the freshman DiGiacomo getting picked off at third. Those two, that kind of stuff is demoralizing for a team, especially when Zach Johnson we're not talking golf. When Zach Watson hits that RBI and then tries to take second, kind of on a foolish play. That's demoralizing because at that point you'd have a runner in scoring position and then he basically takes himself out of the game. And then DiGiacomo, anytime you get picked off, it's just another demoralizing thing. And it's just stupid errors. So, you can't play in championship baseball and make errors like that. It's the same thing with fielding errors. And that's one of the reasons why I liked our chances against Florida State, because in that first game, it seemed like they just couldn't field the ball. But, again, got to give credit to Florida State for playing some real tough, gritty baseball. And also give a shout out to Fontenot for pitching an incredible, 4 innings or 5 innings.
Oh, I thought it was 6 he was 6 1/3. He pitched his guts out.
Yeah, and did you see the thing where the Florida State coach asked to see him after the game, Mike Martin?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw that video where he's kind of just saying or congratulating him, left it all on the line.
Yeah, it was amazing. He went up to Michael Bonnet, who's the LSU press guy, comms director, and he was like, "Can I speak to Fontenot? I just want to tell him good game." And so they brought him out of the locker room, and he went up to him and he was like, "Look, man, you pitched your heart out. That was an incredible outing by you. I haven't. That's one of the best pitching outings I've ever seen in my however many years of coaching. Probably coaching since the 1910s."
Oh yeah, 40. Yeah. Well, back when they Back when they didn't play with gloves.
Exactly.
And so, you like to see that. I was a little bit disappointed in the way some of Florida State's players carried themselves. But that effort by the skipper to recognize how good Fontenot was kind of made up for it. So, good luck to Florida State.
Yeah. Back to what you're saying, just those few kind of bang plays that could have gone either way. Either I think just made or broke the game. You also think about Saul Garza trying to tag out the guy, slide into home, and the ball slipping out of his glove to get that run in the first game. And then Zach Watson got caught on the base pass twice, one in each game, and it's a little bit rough to see that when you're kind of taste success and that you could have had it by flipping a couple of things, but to fall short, especially in your own house, Florida State coming in here and then just walking in against 11,000 fans and taking 2 wins is rough. But I think it was a good run to end the season. Obviously, you would have wanted to go to Omaha, but we'll take this, learn from it, hopefully build up on it next year. I did like to see the pitching performances. I didn't really like to see Cole Henry get taken out in the first game after only 1 inning being hurt. But then Todd Peterson came in, did his thing for a while before losing it a little bit. And then Zach Hess did well. It was just that one big home run in the first game, 3-run homer, and then kind of went downhill from there.
And I just feel like I kind of owe an apology because on our last pod, I signed off with, "I'll see y'all in Omaha." And I just really, I'm a little bit superstitious when it comes to baseball. And I just really hope I didn't. That's all I could think about was I said those words on the podcast. And then now I'm watching our Omaha trip just fall apart.
Jinxed it all.
I feel like I might have jinxed it all. And if I did, I apologize to all the Tiger faithful.
Well, I don't think it came down to that. But we definitely appreciate the apology, and we'd be happy making you shoulder all the blame for the hopes of all these Tiger faithfuls.
I can take it all on.
Thank you. But I don't think it was you stating that. Skip Bertman actually said something, and this is also, it goes back to what we said last week. I think you asked if Mainieri would be on the hot seat, and he said something. He said, if a team wins it all, they you get all the praise, but if they don't, then the coach gets all the blame. And Skip said something kind of insightful. He's won a few. He didn't win every year, but he's won enough. He's a legend. And he said, well, you have to have these big-time players make the big-time plays, and sometimes that didn't happen. And, that's like this past weekend. The base running errors by Watson, LSU having a 3-run lead going into the last inning and then giving up a home run to tie it. I think that's what he's talking about, is they had the game. They could have and probably should have won this series, but they didn't. And, congrats to Florida State. Not to take anything away from them because they were good enough to get there. It was just so close to the game. It's just those little errors are what prevented them from going to Omaha, not your proclamation, Tommy. So I don't want you to take I don't want you to be too hard on yourself about that. But all they can do now is look forward to next year. And they're losing some main players here. Obviously, Chris Reed's gone, Brant Broussard's gone, Duplantis, Watson, Josh Smith, all gone. But they have a pretty decent core coming back with Cabrera, Garza, I believe, is going to come back. He was drafted, but I think he's going to be okay. Yeah, he kind of came on strong at the end of the season, which is I think why they lost Brock Mathis to a transfer, even though he did play in I think 40 games for them. But they also have Cade Beloso coming back. To me, the issue was the pitching, and I don't know if you guys saw this. Scott Rabelais actually had a good article in the Advocate about this because we had talked about the injuries to the pitching and it's like, what's going on here? That one injury, that's normal. That happens. Another injury, that seems like a coincidence, but they had a rash of injuries. But, according to his article, the pitching coach and Mainieri, they didn't really do anything different. It was just maybe a freak thing because they'd lost Jaden Hill, they'd lost Cole Henry, they lost Marceau for a little bit, and Eric Walker, and like you said, Daniel, Henry only pitched one inning in a super regional.
Start of the second.
Yeah, so that's that changed everything. It didn't kill him because Todd Peterson pitched a great game, but these guys, a lot of them are taking summer ball off just to recoup, which is a good thing. So LSU, where it was a deficit this year, it could be their greatest strength next year because they have all those guys, plus Nick Stortz, who never saw action, A.J. Labas, Easton McMurray, who I think is their only left-hander, but they have all those guys coming back. So, I hate to say it, but, maybe we'll get them next year with the staff that's coming back.
Yeah, hope springs eternal. You just want to see these guys healthy and then just come back, reload, and see where it takes us. Full strength, I think we're as good as anybody in the country, and that's all you can hope for is just to keep everybody on the active roster and then live up to this potential that we have. And hopefully win another championship would be over 10 years at this point. So I think everybody's kind of ready for that to bring it back home.
Yeah, because I don't think LSU has gone more than 3 years without going to Omaha since 1986. So this makes two. Again, Mainieri's not in the hot seat yet, but after next year, I don't know. If he doesn't make it to Omaha, there's definitely going to be a lot of pressure on him, and even the Tiger faithful might get a little uneasy over there at the box if they don't make it to Omaha, because Omaha actually likes Tiger fans too. I think they say they're the best ones that go there because we travel well, and they're just very passionate about their baseball. So
yeah, I don't know of any program that or fan base that takes college baseball as seriously as LSU does. And Scott Woodward said that in his opening press conference as AD. So there's, I feel like you're right. Like if there's not more success in the next couple of years, they might be out for blood.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But it goes back to what we were saying is like, who do you get to replace them? Maybe that answer will reveal itself in the next couple of years, but, Mainieri's gotten there before, and they were, probably one healthy pitcher away from being able to take on Florida back in 2017. So, and again, they were only a few plays away from making it this year. So I don't think they're in dire straits yet. They still got a lot of talent, still more talent coming in. It's just all the chips falling in place, I think. But one thing we can celebrate is the LSU track and field coming home with some championships. Now, as of our last podcast, I think Javon Harrison had already won the national championship in the high jump, and I think either as we were speaking or right after we finished, he'd won the long jump, and I think he was the first athlete to do that, in the history of the track and field championship. So, congrats to him. That's a pretty tremendous feat. And then Sha'Carri Harrison did win her title in the 100-meter. She actually set a record with 10.75. She was actually, I think, 1/10 or 1/100 of a second of coming in first for the 400 as well. But then shortly after, she announced she's going pro. And Daniel, I wanted to toss this to you because I don't know if you were saying it in in earnest last week or not, but you made some joke about Antoine Duplantis going to play with the Swedish national team for baseball instead of the U.S.
Yeah.
But yeah, you weren't far off, because his brother is foregoing the rest of his college eligibility to go pro, but for the Swedish track and field team. So you were close, man. You're almost close with that assessment.
Yeah, Sha'Carri Richardson, just an amazing performance. Ran 10.75 in the 100 and 22.17 in the 200. And then I saw it kind of going around on Twitter, going viral a little bit, just the fact that she became not only the first college athlete, but the first woman in history to run below 10.8 in the 100 and below 22.2 in the 200 on the same day. So she did those events back to back. And that's been done by other people just at a meet, but to have that type of strength to come back and just do so amazingly in two races on the same day is quite a performance. And then respect to Javon Harrison as well. Just what an athlete to be able to win the long jump and the high jump. I know most of these people specialize in one event and they just practice that over and over their whole career. So to do two events, they're pretty similar in jumping, but to do two events and do them both so well, it takes a real special athlete there.
Yeah, it does. Don't know if we'll see that again because it hasn't been done before. And yeah, Harrison, I don't blame her for going pro. I mean, she said she was going to focus on going pro, but there's some Olympics coming up that's probably what she wants to focus on. And if she's that fast, who can blame her for that? That was just an amazing feat. And I think that'll pretty much do it for us, guys. Is there any last thoughts? Anything going on this weekend, LSU or otherwise, you guys want to mention?
I did see a tweet earlier today that Nick Saban was recruiting a guy, kind of like what you said about how Alabama recruits off success, and he flipped an Auburn commit, Demoy Kennedy, by bringing in two tables in front of him. One table had like a bunch of championship rings, and the other had none. And he said, "Do you want to be part of which table? Do you want to be?" And the guy said, "I want to be on the table with the rings." And then he committed to Alabama. So. That's that.
Yeah, I wish we could say the same thing and put out year after year championships. We got a couple, but success breeds success, and you got to kind of give props to Nick Saban for having that level of talent come in year after year and being able to keep the cycle rolling.
Yeah, and you can't be mad at him. I think any coach in that position would do the same thing, because these players will hear anything from a coach. Anything they want to hear or think that they should hear, but sometimes you don't have to say anything. You could just put your title rings on a table in front of them, and that'll help make their decision for them. But that'll pretty much do it for us this week. If you enjoyed our show, be sure to follow each of us. I'm at Scott Gerard 1. Guys, go ahead and toss out your Twitter handles there.
At TH Johnson 23.
Yeah, you can follow me, Daniel Zollinger. It's at DF Zollinger. That's ZOLLINGER at Twitter. And enjoy the pod. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you're welcome. You can also follow us at RZRLSU pod. And, you could also consider making a donation from the Support Us tab at the LARedZoneReport.com site. The more you support us, the more content we can bring you. Hopefully next year, maybe we can bring you some content from Omaha, unless Tommy jinxes us again. But
I won't mention those words again.
Thank you. But that'll do it for us this week, and we'll see you all next time on the LSU podcast with the Red Zone Report. Tommy Johnson.